We probably should move. Now we know how to do it. We only go on there about 5 or 10 minutes before we go live next time because people will see us sitting here doing nothing. But we're not ready for another 20
Hey,
minutes.
if you ask me, the URL, video URL, has changed again. I'm stuck on a 30-second video now.
What do you mean? What do you mean, series?
What I say? I'm getting a video instead of the live. Oh, now I have a live. Huh? It's a different URL.
I've got to change it again.
Oh.
It's going to be the same URL, isn't it? Because I sent it to you. It's just... oh.
Things.
What do you want me to look up, series?
Your live URL has changed.
Someone's on there, just not ready yet. 7.
Yeah, not sure who that is.
What do you want me to do? Pass you through that code again?
Yeah, new code.
Oh, I've just sent it all off to everybody on Sun and Moon. How can it change when we're actually live?
Because I stopped the recording and restarted it. But the chat is still the chat, doesn't matter. But you will get the older video. So every time I start the streaming, it seems... Hey, you did.
I'm muted, I'm muted because you're making a lot of noise. Right, there you go, series. What the hell's that? Hey.
Cortex? Who is that?
I don't know what that is. I'm just going to send it to you again. Yeah, it is live, isn't it?
Feels like...
There you go. There you go, series.
Oh, yeah. Well, is that true? Oh, yeah. Now it does work. That's weird, yeah.
Now what?
Yeah, that one works indeed. Alright. Ah, Doc. Hey, Doc. Funny. And live hangout chat. Okay.
What's going on? I'm struggling here. I've got to do it again then. Hello?
Hello.
Are you there?
Nobody left. 3 are looking. Oh, me.
Hello, everybody. Sorry, we're just setting up. Whoever's there.
Don't worry, it's okay.
It's a completely different link, isn't it, series? It shows my, like, moon thing. Sorry, we're not on till 7:30, anybody that's watching. We're just getting ready. Right, let's get off that. Let's get off that. Do I need to have the live stream thing up, do you think, series?
Hmm?
Do you think I need to leave the page open? Is that why it cut off?
No,
Well, I can't hear anything.
I stopped the stream,
Yeah.
and that particular stream was of a video link was actually linked to that particular stream session. And every new session, you're getting a new video code. It seems. I had stopped the stream in between.
Okay, well, I can't hear anything through the link. I'm going to leave it on just in case it's a problem. Me shutting off the YouTube page. You never know. It could be because I wasn't on you know, because I don't know. Anyway, it's open, but I can't hear it, so I'm going to leave it. But I don't have to do any recording today, so that'll be amazing.
Yeah, I'm doing the recording. Stream it to your channel.
Oh, what's that then? Is that me now reverbing back?
Probably. If you have the stream page open, mute the video.
Okay. It is muted. It wasn't me.
Something echoed. I'm not sure.
Oh, I know. It was you coming on the light because you've recorded a bit of it.
Oh.
That was you coming on. That's the noise she makes.
What are you showing there, Robert?
It's showing about 10 minutes ago. I said to everybody, be on. Well, Rob's a little bit early, but I said to everybody, be on there for 7:15. It's 17 minutes past. We're just going to have to go with the flow on this one, series.
Yeah,
Aren't we?
I hope that
we will live and learn from our first live hangout. We're going to live and learn, aren't we?
Yeah, I even got an announcement that you was going live.
Really?
In YouTube itself, nu live bekijken. Karen Pettit, Demeter Rijn and friends talk with Dell from Beyond the Imaginary Curve.
I know, but that's the wrong one. Oh, I see. Yes, it will come through again. I'm just having a quick bag, and then I'm going to put my camera on. I just don't like people seeing me smoke that much. Not if we're going live. Who's that then, Rob? Is that Mikey?
Who is the beer guy?
I don't know. It looks a bit like Mikey, but he's got a beard.
It is Mikey.
I thought it was. I could tell by the eyes.
You're going to try and come in on the minute, aren't you, Mikey?
Oh, I see. So he's on the phone. Well,
Right.
I've already emailed 10 people now because the Hangout's been on. So I suppose it's whoever gets here first then.
Hurry up, Mikey. Come online. Okay. Wave goodbye for now.
I don't
See you
think
in a minute, Madman.
on, but
Take care.
we're already at 10.
Oh, dear. He's in the.
This waiting bit's a bit weird though, isn't it? You think we're live and people can see us and think, what are they doing? I've just got to wait for everybody to come on.
Yeah, it's always a wait moment. Huh? There's always a
It
slow
is
beginning,
series.
and once we are busy, before we know it, we are hours further.
Let's go see if Dell's. Do you guys should ring Dell up?
Yeah.
I think I might give Dell a quick buzz. Not going through, is it? Dell, we're live now, waiting for you to come on. See you in a minute. You talking on the chat series?
Yeah, why else would I type? Facebook chat, of course.
Oh, Alan's there.
Yeah, in the chat.
Right, I'm just going to shut my dogs up, okay?
Ah, mooi. Hij nog droog? Hij nog droog? Jongen.
Okay. Come on, you.
Dog bones?
Dogs are in, they won't be barking.
I can hear them, yeah.
Right. Right, I don't like the waiting.
Nah, me neither.
Well, it's 25 past. Where's the rest of everybody?
No idea.
Jen somehow thought it was 8:30. Let's try Dell again. That's not good. Dell, it's nearly 7:30 now. Hope you please hurry up. Well, shall we start chatting then? Because everybody's sort of waiting and it's nearly 7:30 now. So I'm going to take my camera off and we just get into a bit of a discussion while we're waiting.
Got something to bring up. Right, there's a lot of stuff people are posting on.
So Rob's going to chat now. Go on, Rob.
Yeah, there's a thing people keep posting on Facebook, especially, to do with combustion in space, which is wrong. And it's going to make us all look idiots because people keep posting about combustion in space won't work. The whole point of a chemical rocket wouldn't work if in a vacuum if you didn't have liquid oxygen. But because you have liquid oxygen, they do burn in space. It's basic, like, combustion. Okay? And people get spreading these silly memes. It's to make us all look like idiots because we're getting that basic bit of science wrong. Nobody trusts us about anything else, are they? I think it's been designed that way. Any thoughts?
Well, I put a video out today to sort of explain that stuff doesn't work in a vacuum.
Like what? What doesn't work in a vacuum?
Well, the one thing about a vacuum that I put on there, which is something, it's a bit different, but whenever you watch them, space station or on the moon, they're all bouncing around, wobbling, bouncing. But when you actually, if you believe that they're in a vacuum when they're testing them, in the vacuum, they're just standing there. They're not bouncing around. They're not moving.
That's to do with gravity, not vacuums, though.
But they're in a vacuum. There won't be any gravity.
No, vacuums and gravity have nothing to do with each other. They're completely mutually exclusive. You can have a vacuum and have massive amounts of gravity.
What I'm trying to say is the vacuum is supposed to represent what it's like on the moon.
But not the gravity. It's to do with the atmosphere. The atmosphere. Vacuums do with atmosphere. Gravity is to do with attraction of masses.
But in a vacuum, there is no gravity.
No, there is. That's a misconception. If on the Earth we call this 1g, what we used to as gravity is 1g. Yeah. If you go to the moon, in theory, it's 1/6 of the gravity.
How could it be any different if it's a vacuum? A vacuum's a vacuum.
No, the vacuum's got nothing to do with it. The atmosphere has nothing to do with your density.
Yeah, that's completely something else.
It's completely different. Right? If you go to Mars, it's 1/3 in there, mainstream science. And that's the problem. Some mainstream science stuff we can't argue with because it's not really up for discussion. We can't prove them wrong or right, but we can look like idiots by saying that you can't do combustion in space. If you want combustion, you have fuel, heat, oxygen. Yeah. So a rocket wouldn't work in space, but because you have liquid oxygen with the fuel, and you can generate heat electrically, and plus if you're starting outside the atmosphere first, anyway, it's not a problem. It would work. A chemical rocket would work in a vacuum.
Ones have never shown us one, have they? So they've never shown all this working in a vacuum, have they?
It's the
here
medium on where you need to have this pressure on how you actually have this particular Newton law or something functioning. That in a vacuum, it doesn't matter what you burn, it dissipates into nothing because the vacuum is unpressurized in that sense. So it doesn't matter how much pressure you put into the vacuum, it dissipates immediately. Because there's
because you still get the initial thrust as it comes at the back.
Yeah, and it's then the question is the actual movement of the mass of how the propulsion actually pushes against the vacuum, what is nothing. It's the
Yeah.
question if things are still moving or does it have any effect. And so far, in a vacuum, you can see that particular blowers, for example, just don't have
But
any
that,
effect on anything without any
but
medium.
that's again, that's a misunderstanding again. Of course, a blower, a fan won't work because there's no atmosphere. It's a vacuum. A
Exactly,
rocket and a
you have
fan aren't the
nothing.
same thing.
You have nothing to actually move around.
But you don't need it. That's the whole point. It's a different type of thrust. When you have a plane, you cause lift by the shape of the wing, and you can a propeller
Yeah, the
or a jet engine, a turbofan. A turbofan is basically a very clever propeller, isn't it? Yeah, suck, boom, bang. That's what a jet engine does, rather than just a propeller, just a prop, piston prop.
yeah,
Right. Same with the helicopter. Helicopter has the piston prop going above, or the fan powered propeller above. Hot air balloons again use
exactly.
being
It's
lighter than air, you get lift.
they all use air as the
The
medium
same
to
with
travel
submarines through
through.
water using a propeller, a impeller, whatever, to push yourself through the water. That's fine. Rockets start working that way. It's a different type of propulsion.
Is
A
it
chemical
purely
rocket would
based
work, does work in a vacuum,
on
and
the
will work in a vacuum,
replacement
and
of
combustion is
mass?
possible in a vacuum.
Is it particularly
And every time we spread these memes, we're looking stupid. You're going to turn people off.
yeah? But
It's not scientific.
is it actually? I lost the words now. Uh,
Right, don't worry.
uh,
That's one concern
does
about because
yeah
every time we
does
spread these sort of memes,
Easy,
okay,
right?
hey
If it
Tom?
was so easy, they'd be in there, then they'd
yeah.
be able to simulate everything on Earth like it is there, and they can't.
Like, how do you mean, like what?
You've got, sorry, you haven't
Sorry,
explained. You've
Tom,
got
you're
series.
echoing.
One second, guys. 1 second.
Tom is echoing.
We've got on the Hangout tonight. We've got so far, although we're waiting for Dell. We've got Judith.
Uh,
We've got Louise, and we've got Tom
Tom,
with us.
can you mute yourself?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Tom as
You just
well.
today to sort of explain that stuff doesn't work in a vacuum.
Yeah, super.
Hello, everybody. When you want to talk, you're going to have to unmute yourself.
All right.
Thank you very much. Sorry, what were you saying, Rob?
What I'm saying is, combustion will work, and it's a different type of propulsion. The thing talking about planes or submarines or balloons is a different type of causing lift. You do need atmosphere. But a rocket, you don't need atmosphere. In fact, if you think about it, a rocket's everything's being held back by wind resistance, air resistance in atmosphere. In a vacuum, there's no resistance.
That's
We're
the
just
point.
pushing stuff out the back, and that's giving you push forward.
Is that
You don't need an
particular
atmosphere.
momentum what they are this particular Newton law in when you push one thing out in the other side and then
Yeah,
the vehicle goes the other.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Every action has
particular
an equal and
effect.
opposite reaction. Yeah.
You may wonder how strong that is for rockets on a vacuum. Is that particularly not pushing in the air very hard because you have the air layers where it starts in. But has it any real effect in a vacuum, you may ask? In a sense, I wonder how you
Well,
can actually fill up a complete vacuum room with a rocket firing in that sense, and you keep vacuuming it. How much thrust power you actually can measure on a rocket then?
like I say,
See
if you haven't got the
videos
resistance,
done where they're actually in a vacuum using materials which would light or combustion or work in oxygen, but they don't in a vacuum. And even noise, like you
but
put a phone in when the vacuum's working, there's no noise.
but that's the whole point. In a vacuum, yes, if you try to light hydrogen with a match or something in a vacuum, yes, fine, it wouldn't work. But that's the whole point. A chemical rocket is either hydrogen and oxygen, or a kerosene and oxygen. You're providing the important, crucial part of the fire triangle. You know, when you burn a gas in air on the Earth, the air contains 20.9% oxygen, right? So it'll burn. In space, in a vacuum, you're adding the oxygen under pressure to the fuel. So that's why it works. It's whole, like I say, I keep trying to explain to people, it's making us look stupid. It's making us look really, really daft.
For me, is more how
Every time we flip that,
how the
it's gonna turn
thrust
people
actually
off.
has an effect as being a thrust on its own, as a power as a movement of what it has. Does it actually push the thing with that power, what it pushes outwards, what you should think? Because we can only test it
Well, for example,
within the
if you,
air.
they did it recently on somebody showed some video, they have a vacuum chamber and a can of soft drink, yeah. When eventually the weak point goes, which is the tab, yeah, the drink comes out because it's not. This isn't a rocket. This is just it's under pressure, yeah. The can flips around inside the vacuum chamber because of pressure. So that is like the thrust of a rocket, isn't it? So yes, it will in a vacuum force out of the back of a container will cause movement. But with a rocket that's controlled, you can control where it's going. That's what I'm saying. We can't keep spreading this nonsense about rockets don't work because we look like idiots. We're going to turn people off because a lot of people understand that rockets do work. They
Yeah, they
understand the
will
whole,
burn. You can put all the
Yeah, three
chemicals
parts.
together to create a burning. That's not a problem now.
Yeah.
Do the same
The
with
oxygen.
fireworks, for example. You just add some chemicals what produce the actual oxygen.
Some sort of oxidizer, yeah. That's what I'm worried about at the moment. I just think it's going to turn people off. What if people are spreading nonsense? And I think a lot of it's designed. I think somebody somewhere clever who wants flat Earth to remain a minority thing is putting these sort of things out to make us look like idiots. There's another one recently I saw recently. It's like, no, we can't keep spreading this stuff. You know, it's destructive to the movement.
Yeah, the nonsense of the controlled opposition.
Yeah, exactly.
The same as spreading the circle.
Yeah, but they still haven't shown us it all working, have they? They haven't shown us, on Earth in exactly the same like way it would be in a vacuum of whatever out there in space, and then shown us in there. They haven't shown us that. They've shown us water and a vacuum. It's a bit hard, isn't it, to always know the truth? But anything I've watched, nothing wants to burn in a vacuum. Sound doesn't want to travel in a vacuum.
Well, no, sound won't travel, obviously, because it's you have to, you know, that's the whole thing.
Their spacesuits work then? How do they able to talk when
Radio.
sound doesn't travel?
Radio links. It's like using a walkie-talkie, you know.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Yeah, like Wi-Fi, you know, that's not an issue.
Yeah, what I still wonder is you don't really see how the pressure is in those suits in outward sense. You don't see that.
I don't know. I'm
that
fine
it's
doing decent
blowing
research
up
into that.
in a
Let's say,
sense
all
because
I'm
of-
worried about is propulsion, make us look like idiots. That's all.
Yeah, the suit where the people are, the astronauts.
Sorry. Sorry.
If you
I
take
was coughing. I
if
couldn't hear
you
you when I
take
was
a
coughing.
spacesuit in where they do their spacewalks,
Yeah.
they've never let they never ever actually proved to the public in the sense that when you step into a suit and then step into a vacuum chamber,
Yeah.
No.
that the actual suit is working with the human
Yeah,
in
yeah.
it. The only thing we have seen is the fish tank version in where we have the outside pressure on it. So
Yeah.
we have,
Like in
we have only
the
water suits,
swimming
no
pools, yeah,
space
yeah.
suits in that sense.
Yeah. That's fair enough.
Yeah, and that's the thing
You know,
that
the
we can test in that sense that you have this particular spacesuit, put that in a vacuum chamber, and to actually prove that it is working. No matter what you put in.
Or like
actually. Yeah, it would probably blow out.
What the seats?
Yeah, because that's what a vacuum does. It just expands everything.
The seats are an issue, definitely.
You can't even tell whether they've done the truth in the vacuum chambers with the space, with the astronauts in it. You can't tell the truth.
You would think you would actually have a suit needed what is the same as those gas liquid gas tanks.
Sorry, say again?
Liquid gas tanks. You a tank with a metal tank. What is
Yeah.
what can have can have that high pressure.
Right.
Well, that's what you have
Hey,
inside
Wilson's
them as
there.
yourself.
I'm glad you've come on. Rob, explain to Wilson about rocket fuel again, because Wilson will know the answer. Oh, Dell!
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Hello, Dell. Wilson's just going to answer a question and then we'll greet you gracefully. But Rob, just explain this question that you just put out just a minute ago. Oh, he's frozen. See, oh, there he is. He's there.
Can you see me?
Rob? You're okay. Rob's gone a
Can you
bit.
see
There you
me
go.
now?
Rob, I'm going to take my camera off.
It's right, don't worry. It's all right. I'm still here.
Question to Wilson. Series, you tell Wilson the question.
What question? How the I don't know. It's about the nonsense what keeps being spread about rockets not functioning in a vacuum. But so far we figure you can put all things together to make to make a burning engine anyway. You just add the missing components for that. But I'm more curious how a rocket actually reacts in a vacuum. How much real control you actually have. If you have anything what just is a push out of anything into a vacuum, if that particular push out has actually a pushback like a bullet. When you shoot a bullet, you have the opposite reaction on the gun. Is that still the same principle within the vacuum? If you use a burning engine for that instead of a bullet, actual mass, but only a burning gas.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're stuttering a bit.
Wilson, we can't hear you.
Try without your
That's
video.
it. Go on then, Wilson.
Just audio.
Things keep rocking out.
Yes.
Wilson, try only
Just
your
take your
audio.
camera off, Wilson.
Yeah, turn off your camera.
We'll be with you in a moment, Dell. It was just a really important question because what Rob's saying is that they're going to make fun of us.
I'm guessing no.
Rockets can work in a vacuum with what technology they've got. Sorry, Wilson, carry on. Wilson, take your camera off. Wilson. Oh, there he is. Yay. Can you speak, Wilson?
Can you hear me?
What's
Okay.
your take on rocket fuel for space? Will it work?
It doesn't work. Somebody already proved it. Within a vacuum, there is no oxygen, and oxygen is one of the very main contributors.
In a rocket engine, you mix oxygen with fuel. That's the whole point.
Yeah,
No,
the burning isn't the problem. The
the,
question is more,
when you
does the
make
burning
rocket
has
fuel,
actual
all the
power to
components are
push?
there. Like, it has nothing to burn off of. There's no. Okay, somebody already done it. They already done it. And as a matter of fact, in every single situation, you have to also consider the other element. In the vacuum of space, there's nothing to propel against. So even if you could create a propulsion system, it's blowing out into the system and it's not going to move it.
That's the question here. Does it have any pushing power?
It's pushing against nothing. You have to push against. There's particles of water going through air. Air is still dense. In the vacuum of space, there is nothing. There is nothing. There's no such thing as the vacuum of space. It's impossible and improbable.
Yeah, probably a
It's a
good
moot
test
point.
would be actually having a small rocket, fireworks rocket, in a bottle in the middle of the vacuum chamber with an electric igniter with that it actually burns and actually pushes out with oxygen chemicals inside it. If that particular rocket is actually going up in the vacuum, that would be a good test.
I watched a man put a fan into a vacuum and a feather. The fan
Yeah.
spun, the feather didn't move. There was no air to
Yes,
it to
of course.
That's
push.
air based.
It pushes the
That's
air.
understood because there's no air to move the fan. The fan is air, like a turbine, like a jet turbine or a propeller. But a rocket's not a jet turbine or a propeller, is it?
No. You have to think about
No.
the actual physics of what's going on between the two objects. What's going on between the two objects is the actual atmosphere itself is producing thrust. So if
No.
there's nothing there to produce thrust against, then thrust would not happen.
It's not.
Ergo, you need the air to be there to actually create the push. The wings of a plane don't push against nothing. It pushes against
No,
air.
but it's a different type of propulsion, is it? A plane and a balloon and a helicopter and a submarine are all different types of propulsion. A rocket's different from those.
But they're all still based on the same elements in its environment. When you change the actual environment, you're taking away the one main element of why these things work in the first place. You can create a different propulsion system, but it's still based on the physics of what it is that
Okay,
you do.
if you got a can of Coke in a vacuum chamber and you flip the lid, the wrinkle, what will happen to the can?
The can will explode. The dispersal of energy will push
Yeah.
the can to one side. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's pushing.
Does that mean it's going to make it
You
fly?
just answered the question, haven't you?
No.
Doesn't
What I
no.
answered was an energetic moment between the thrust and the release. What you're talking about is a continuous release and a push against something. It was sitting against the bottom of the container. So force against force created a motion. If you suspended it, would you get the same result? How?
Because you've got the thing being propelled out at the back.
The back of what? It's not against anything.
If you've got if it's going out one end, it's going to get pushed the other way.
The can was sitting against the bottom of the object.
Isn't it just simply testable with a
So
simple
the force that was
fireworks
produced,
rocket?
the force that was produced against the bottom of the object is what created the propulsion, not the vacuum. There's nothing to do with the vacuum. So once it gets into the open area of space, how is it actually going to propel against something? Because there's nothing to propel against. It was still a solid object sitting under the can. This is actually really, really simple in physics. Like a bullet fires from a gun because there's something for it to fire from. If you heated up a bullet, it would just explode on its own. Force against force. Two objects moving away from each other. So you have a can sitting on an object. It creates a dispersal of energy. The energy pushes against the energy underneath it. and it created a force. That's what that's based on, not the actual vacuum.
Anyway, listen, we've sort of talked about that a little bit. We've got our guest with us, which is Dell. I haven't said hello to Dell yet properly. Hello, Dell.
Hi guys.
How are you?
All right. How you doing?
So, tonight we have series, Pettit, Wilson and Rob. We can come back to this subject in a minute, Rob. It's just that we need to say hello to Dell, because we've asked Dell on this Hangout and we're live, so can't have him sitting there saying anything.
Don't worry about me, honestly. If I can just add to the wee point that you were talking about, it's like, you know, how do things react in jelly? It's like an argument and a question that people are going over and over. You know, for me, you know, why are we even bothering with how things behave in a vacuum? You know, we've got to go back to the natural science again. If they're saying that there's an alternative medium up there that's different from ours, i.e. a negative pressure system against a positive pressure system, we know that's nonsense. So really I see people arguing and debating about these things when it's something that's just been thrown out there. It's like, how does rockets behave in jelly? And everybody's arguing about how rockets behave in jelly. I don't, you know, it doesn't even have any relevance, to be honest with you. But that's just the way I see it.
I believe the question is how it's possible for a rocket to create propulsion. And the only way that I see that is actually relevant is that if you can prove that a rocket can move in the vacuum of space, then obviously the vacuum of space would be possible and very probable. So this thing would be likely a proof as to say that. For me personally, I really don't actually care because I'm never going to go into a rocket and go that high anywhere. So it's not going to make a difference to me either way.
That's the thing I think people overlook. It's not that if you can prove how something works in a vacuum that it proves that rockets work in a vacuum and they can probably go. The point I'm making is where is this vacuum and who's proving that there is a vacuum?
Yeah. Because we know there's not a vacuum.
Well,
but I suppose
if somebody's claiming there's another medium, so there you go.
No, just saying, because it's just that the questions that get fired out, and it was just one that Rob picked up on today, because he just thinks we're trying to be so serious, and then if we're answering things wrong, they're just going to laugh at us. But you're saying it doesn't matter anyway because it's not real.
That's fair enough, though.
Yeah, that's much about the magic trick of it all. Like, if you convince everybody that there is a big pink elephant, then obviously nobody's going to be convinced otherwise. It's because everybody's going to believe what they believe, and if everybody says they've seen it, then they've seen it.
Now, my point is, if combustion is possible in a vacuum and rockets work in a vacuum, whether there's a real vacuum or not, if we're saying they don't and it's possible, then we're going to look like idiots to the other people trying to get wrapped around our way of thinking. Okay. You know what I mean? That's what I worry about. That's my concern. I don't care if there's a vacuum or not.
What I was saying to you was that because the can is sitting on a force.
Yeah.
Now the bottom of that vacuum, regardless of what's inside of it, is creating a force, something to push against. The force that came from the can that released it is pushing against this. It's stopping it. It's stopping it from moving. Regardless, it created a force. But does that mean that it's going to propel, that it's going to move and maneuver and do things?
Well,
anyway, it's really a moot point. Like, regardless, I don't believe that anybody's, up there anyway. And they've already said that there's these Van Allen belts from Professor Van Allen from the 1960s, 1970s that they named him after. And they've been there right after Neil Armstrong and then came back. So, God put up a fence and said, hey, you're not allowed to go to my moon no more. Sorry, guys. You had one shot. Now it's over.
Everything's contradictory, though, isn't it? Because I know that maybe Dell we'll talk about something else in a minute, Dell, but even, like supposedly the vacuum of space and what NASA, the figures and everything, everybody should be weighing like 1/6 of their weight. They bounce so high. So just nothing adds up, does it? That can't be true, and that's not right. A ball, it would go like 1/2 mile. On any of the footage, the person that jumped on the moon just jumped down. He didn't bounce at all.
And they did it hiding behind the lunar module as well, or behind the lunar rover. It's pathetic. They jumped like 4 feet in the air, sort of thing. It's just.
I think what it is Dell. I know that we've all got past that, but it is just such a strange thing, isn't it? Like, so everything we've been told is a lie. We sat there. I watched those things supposedly go to the moon when I was a kid. We've been brought up with all this stuff. It's like it's got to be a scientist to be able to explain it back to people. You keep baby to a certain point, don't you, Dell, when you go on your walks? But
missed that, yeah.
Well, you keep to a certain agenda about where you're going with flat Earth. And level. We're just talking about other stuff.
It's just keeping it simple.
Yeah.
In regards to everybody, everything's a lie. It's not that everything's a lie. It's just that people need to learn to let go of hearsay and beliefs and things that they think they know about, and start actually questioning what the actual premises are, and keep everything simple.
Yeah.
Just as I was saying about this whole vacuum thing, and as I say, it's a waste of everybody's energy, because you can't have two opposing pressure systems. Science shows us 100% of the time that is no reality. So for me, it's like it's a total waste of time. There is no vacuum, and people are wasting energy and time with things like vacuums. So it's just one of the kind of points, as I say, that it's really irrelevant, and it causes more confusion for me than anything. I think people are missing, that we have to prove the first premises first, which is, right, okay, it's a vacuum, it's next to your pressure system, show me a practical example of how that is possible. Or prove to me that you're actually going into this vacuum, and none of that's there. So it's a waste of time.
It's in the Hangout. Doc says the reaction makes implosion, not explosion.
I agree with Dell. I agree with Dell 100%. I think that we as a race have been very antagonistic when presented with any kind of information, that anytime something comes up, we skip away from the real issues and we start to talk semantics. It says the same thing with our old belief systems, with religion, with flat earth, with everything that's been ever been said. As soon as somebody brings up a new idea, then many people want proof. But the thing is flat earth is not a new idea. It's something that was discarded, and people do not want to bring back what's discarded, because a lot of people have been educated, and as this thing where people talk about lying and stuff like that, I agree also that that this is a very counterproductive way of looking at it. I mean, you can't say that the television was invented to start brainwashing us, that anybody even know that there's people out there, like maybe they seen the influence that something created, and they put their hand into that big pool to like get a little piece of it and introduce ideas. But I personally, I don't think there's a small group sitting behind closed doors somewhere coming up with nefarious ideas and thinking to themselves, how can we do this and this and this. I mean, they should all be pretty comfortable in the first place and not really care. So the strange thing is that I believe that this has a lot more to do with an education system and a system that's been in place for many, many years. And then it's pretty much like saying, well, let's scrap the whole thing your education means nothing. Everything that you've worked towards and the years that you spent getting your degrees means nothing, and that can be very stifling for somebody. That could be something very, very powerful. Like if somebody came along and told me, no, you've just spent 15 years learning something and you wasted your time, it would be pretty hurtful. Like you have to think about how much time somebody spent with their nose stuck in a book, learning about something, and then you're going to turn around in 5 minutes and say, watch this video, it proves that you're wrong. You know what I mean? Like I'm speaking in a sympathetic understanding of where this antagonism can actually come from. And it can come from a very real place.
It's the investment itself what is, yeah, what the dilemma forms for the particular one who actually put all his time into that. Yeah, it's.
Can I just say, we've got Tom with us, and Tom's kind of got a project on the go. Tom, is there anything that you'd like to say?
Oh, hello. Can you hear me, everyone?
Yep.
Hi, guys. Yes, pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
I've been invited here by Karen because I'm working on a documentary at the moment about something pretty close to what Wilson was just talking about, actually, which is basically the heart and soul behind the whole thing, and the real underlying reasons why people might think one thing or another, or why people might be frustrated by this whole matter and this whole antagonism between people who believe and people who don't.
That would be a project I wouldn't mind being part of.
Oh, thank you very much.
Well, I met Tom at my open day, and he's interviewed a few people already from the group. And I did notice the message for interviewing me, but I've just been very busy getting ready for this hangout. But yes, that's great, Tom.
Oh, no problem at all, Karen. I've been really busy myself. I haven't been particularly good at communicating myself either, so no problem at all. Still looking forward to it. Thanks.
That's okay, but we'll talk about that after the hangout.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. So, how far have you got in your work then with your project then, Tom?
Oh gosh. Well, we went to interview a different group actually the other weekend over in Kings Lynn. We went to visit the Fukers. I don't know if you guys have heard of them. They
don't know. Sorry.
There was
Yeah, I've heard of them, yeah.
a woman by the name of Laura Brooker, I think is her name, who was organising.
Oh yeah. Sorry, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we.
Sorry, Laura.
Did some
She's
interviewing.
in our group. She's in our group.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, we did some interviewing with them. They had some bad weather, so they were going to do an experiment that didn't quite go as planned because it was very foggy over the wash, so they didn't quite get what they wanted to get. But they were there for a whole weekend of coming together, and I was only there for one afternoon, but met a few people. I met David Marsh, who was pretty fantastic to talk to. Got a good interview with him.
No, Dave's in our group as well. Dave's lovely.
Yeah,
He
lovely
comes
guy.
on the Hangouts too.
Yeah, it was really nice. But other than that, I'm still pretty snowed under with writing and editing what I've got and trying to put together the big picture. Too soon to say much, sadly, at this point. Pretty early days still.
So, how many more people are you going to try and interview then?
Well, I guess as many as possible within the next couple of months. I am popping over to the US in a couple of weeks.
Where do you stand on all this then, Tom?
Well,
what we're talking about?
I suppose, to be completely honest, I'm trying to remain pretty neutral and take advantage of the fact that I came to it all quite ignorant in the first place, and the longer I can remember that I'm quite ignorant and keep a pretty open mind, I think the better positioned I am to have a good look about what's really at the heart of all this and what it says about the world.
We've got to wait for your findings then.
Well, I guess so. Yeah, I guess.
Can you? What so far? What's your findings then, or do we have to wait?
Well, to be honest, I think it's looking like what Wilson said is pretty close to the money, in that this antagonism between those who believe and those that don't stems from disagreement over whose education is worthless. Because on one hand, you've got people who have indeed spent a lot of years learning a bunch of stuff, and they'd be really upset to be told that was all wrong. And then on the other hand, you've got people who feel quite wronged because the people who spent all those years learning the stuff are telling them that they're wrong. So I think that's the crux of the conflict.
Thanks for that, Tom. And so far we've got Mikey now on the Hangout. Do you want to say hello, Mikey?
Hello! hello.
Our subject of talk, but it's just
Right.
about refining what this is all about, really.
Righty-ho.
And then you can see we've got Judith, Rob, Tom, Series, me, and Wilson.
How's everybody?
Hello.
We're cool, thank you.
Very well, thank
and
you.
Very, very happy to be here. What did you make of what Tom's doing, Dell?
Sorry, you broke up there. Sorry about that, Cal.
What do you make about what Tom's doing?
Well, the interviews. Was it interviewing? Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Good on you, man.
Thank you.
Every bit of activism's good, you know.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. Are you the gentleman that's been doing street activism?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Yes, I've seen some of your videos.
Nice one.
Yeah, it's nice to chat to you.
Cool.
We were sort of
Sorry,
talking because... Oh, sorry, carry on, Dell.
Oh, sorry, I was a wee bit distracted there. I've got some problems with the PC here, so I apologise. I'm a wee bit sidetracked trying to figure out what's going on here.
Well, your signal is still
You hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah.
Mine dropped out just now as well. I had to completely reconnect back up.
So... Right, everybody's muted now. left me talking. So, the question then, like, Wilson, what is it you want to happen then, now? Is he coming back? Wilson! Okay, then I'll start with Dell then. Dell, what do you want to happen then? If you take it that way, get away from vacuums and worrying about trying to prove all that stuff.
Just for people to understand the simplicity of what's actually going on and how simple it is, and to remove all the, the subjective issues that people have with each other. For me, if I could get rid of all of that, things would move really quickly.
You have to be at that point, don't you? And most people aren't at that point.
No.
It is crazy that many woke up last year and many didn't. Because it is like waking up and seeing it for what it is. It is a bit freak. People don't understand. It's the same. It's been the same for us to go through this process of learning lies, or they tell you the truth and then they tell you a lie and a lie. So, what do you want, Series?
Well, the truth. What else? But not everybody is capable of actually handling or realizing what it is, because it's so immense beyond our perception in that sense. So I'm actually struggling to deal with what it actually is in that sense. But yeah, it's so more in the sense of a realm, that you're kind of in a virtual system of how it seems where we are, but we are connected in an unseen part, what just comes together as two, as a physical and and a spiritual field, what creates a plane of existence on where we can actually experience everything. But
Hear anything?
so far, I see Mikey wants to say something.
Go, Mikey, go.
Okay, let's do it. I went to the pizza shop yesterday, as you do, and when I went in there was a young lad that was serving, and he looked kind of like school age, if you like, if you get what I mean. He wasn't a child, but they had young workers in there, just sort of making some money. And I asked him about school and what he was doing at school and how if he was intimidated at school. And he goes, some people in the school, he said, in my class, he goes, are quite intimidated, and they'll just shut up. They won't really say anything. They'll accept stuff. And I said, that's interesting. I said, what do you do though? If you don't believe something, do you argue the toss? Because I can't remember what I was like at school. I just used to talk a lot, piss about. I didn't really pay too much attention. I was a bit of a dreamer, if that makes sense. So anyways, he had his head screwed on, and he goes, no, I question loads of stuff. And I said, oh yeah. I said, who teaches you science? And he goes, well, there's this one specific teacher who sort of teaches all the kind of subjects. I said, oh right, okay. So like your physics and all that sort of stuff. Do you understand it? I said, what are your parents like? 'Cause I thought, well, I won't take the piss and re-educate him or put my impressions on him. That I felt that was wrong. And he said, well, my mother, she's really academic. And he goes, but my dad's not so academic. But my mum's a champion, and she does her stuff. So I said to him, so viewing the world and stuff, I said, I don't really believe all of it, because sometimes you've got to judge the person and kind of go into the conversation, and Dell will understand with this. You can't sort of go in there like a bull in a china shop. You kind of want to know what the outcome is, but you've got to steer your way into it, if that makes sense. So I kind of steered the conversation without looking like I was a nutcase. I did say to him, I said, well, look, how do you view the world? I said, when they teach you stuff about water and things, I said, have they demonstrated to you water bending, for instance? And he goes, well, no, not really. And I said, because they teach us, didn't they, at school, that we're on a ball. I said, but I'm not 100% behind this, I said, because there's not one experiment out there that shows any curvature, showing water bending. And he said to me, this is the bit that's exciting. He's like a 14-year-old kid. I forget what year he said, but it equates to when I was 14 at school. So, it's like fourth year. So he's about 14. And he said, I don't really believe it. And he goes, I'm struggling with it. And I said, well, if you're struggling with it, when you go back into school on Monday, pin them down. Because it was interesting, because he said to me that he often has arguments with his teacher. And I said, who wins the argument? And he goes, well, if I'm wrong, she will say, look, and we'll develop the conversation, we'll talk about it, and she'll show examples. Wrong. And he goes, well, then she wipes off the egg off her face. And I said, look, just see how you go. But I said, you seem to really have your head switched on. I said, trust what you're thinking is correct. And I said to him, look, just ask questions, because what they're telling you doesn't mean that it's necessarily correct. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that when he goes into school on Monday, I hope I'm not going to sort of make anything awkward for either people, either the youngster or the teacher, because you've got to understand it would be embarrassing for the teacher as well, for her to then go back into the staff room and say, hey, you know what?
But some teachers do know it's flat, but they're paid.
I know. But we've got to go through. This is what my channel of thinking. So I don't want anybody to I wouldn't want the teacher to feel embarrassed, or at least make it into an issue. Oh well, this bloke told me in the pizza shop, la 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 la. But it would be interesting to see if he then goes back into school on Monday and challenges, not necessarily, well, just says, you know what, show me this water, like Dell says, you know, show me this bendy water. And I said, I don't know, I don't think I touched on, well, look, you know, don't ask an example of like a leaky tap or combs next to bendy water, but, you know, a body of water. But, you know, I'm glad I planted that seed, but I felt very empowered and hopeful for the future of humanity by seeing such a young child so switched on that wasn't so easily converted. He was still just dealing with it. I know when I was that age, I found it incredibly, not that I was intelligent enough to go straight into physics, but you just sort of just took on what they were saying and you wouldn't have even thought about questioning. I was in kind of like a private school, so you just sort of went with it. But I hope that it sort of ticked a few boxes, really. But the point I wanted to drive home was the fact that, isn't it awesome that there are young kids that still aren't buying it, because that shows the freshness of, like, a babe, even though he's been, you know, dangled a little ball in front of his eyeballs, he's still, like, got that critical thought to say, no, it doesn't matter how many times you tell me, it doesn't make sense, and that he's standing his ground. And I think that's, you've got to champion that.
Thank you, Mikey. Thanks for doing that.
Take that one, you know. I think that's
you.
a good one to know. But also, all right. And now I spoke to. Sorry.
Well, question about what everybody wanted. So you planted the seed for the future. So thank you so much for that, Mike. But I need to ask a couple more people, because we just move on, because you've said that really lovely, and I really hope that that's planted that seed for that child and for his friends and for his family and for his children. Thanks, Mikey. What do you want then?
Hi, everybody. Hello. Hi. You hear me good? Sorry? You hear me good?
You did.
Yeah. What I want is that we all take action, a movement, and we have to get our courage and stop NASA lying to us. Stop them. We need to stop them. We need to make a big court with the judge, and we must stop them, because it's private company. And no way, they can't continue with this bullshit. They can't continue. We don't let them continue. We insist to stop them. Yeah, with love, with much love. We need to stop them, because I see the video live. It's incredible. It's incredible. They are in nowhere, and she showed me the toilet. This is incredible. And then she can blew up, and she is worried. She wants to show me how she is shit, how she is shitting. She's smiled to my face. She's an actor. She's an artist. She's nothing. They can't go anywhere. Nobody go anywhere. It's a Mother Earth. Nobody. When I take the airplane, it becomes very cold. The airplane, it's become very, very cold. And I see a video when when a balloon go up. So it's going to be explode. It's going to be explode. So I see a video, something like a big balloon go up, and is burning in the air. It was burning. So it's not a fire, it's something else. So what I want is, first of all, stop NASA lying, because they take money and they take us from the nose, everybody, and yeah, we need to be encouraged and insist to stop this private company who control almost half the world, or I don't know. This is a big mafia, and we need to stop them. Yeah.
Judith, thank you very much,
Our
Judith.
land. This is our freedom. This is our Mother Earth. This is our reality. This is in our hand, and we need to do action. Yeah.
We would like action. Thank you, Judith. Rob, what do you want then?
I think I'd like to see more better examples to improve what we're saying. You know, if we could do more experiments, maybe better.
Rob, please, I have something very important to say. When I see the video, NASA live, okay, when I take my camera and I picture the cup doesn't move.
Yeah.
Me, I move, but they make move also the country, also the ball, everything move. They do so many foolish things, incredible. You all must see this. You all, it's wow. Even children can see this.
I've got to go from Afra's calling. Sorry, Bob. Back in a bit.
We'll come back to you, Rob. Wilson, then.
Sorry,
what
Afra's
do you
calling.
want?
Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. What do you want then? What would you like to happen?
I like listening to what everybody says, and I come back to, in my mind, a bunch of things that I think people don't really consider because they've been such a strong part of who we are and what we do, that we don't realize that these are the real things that stop us from doing anything. People talk about freedom. The first idea of contracting freedom didn't happen with the Declaration of Independence, but that was a very, very powerful statement being made. When you create a contract, you create guidelines in a contract, and any contract on this earth where it states that you are free because this are the guidelines. And if you move without outside of the realm of the contract, then there is a punishment available to you, and therefore you're not literally actually free. The other aspect is that everybody in everybody's an amount of wisdom to how this is working, talking about freedom and free your mind and free this. One of the largest things that nobody really gets is we live in a monetary system. The monetary system is an extremely flawed system, and this is the reason why. The difference between gold, silver, and dollars is you have to dig gold and silver out of the ground, but you can print money. Now, I shouldn't have to say much more than that. In every one of our countries, in all of the states and all the provinces and all the places in the world where money can be found, it is printed. So we're obviously seeing contracted behavior all throughout the world. Nobody really knows how to get rid of this. But this is the dirty little secret. This is the big motion. Like everybody's saying, well, this big company is taking millions of dollars, blah 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 blah. But I mean, they can print those. They can print that money. They can print any of it. They can keep printing it, and the only reason why they're not is because it is a form of control. It is a contractual behavior to use goods and services and not free trade, but to contract free trade and put a dollar sign on it and say that it is owned by a corporation. That there in effect is the power. It's the power that's wielded. But I still go back to the idea that this is a trap either way. I don't believe that it was nefarious. I don't believe that it was something that was devised to take control of the masses and this pyramid of all this crap. Some people obviously have it better on the pyramid and some people don't, and that's the way things end up going. And I think that those privileged few are, yes, it's probably from bloodlines and their connections and whatever. But I think it all happened out of the mother of necessity. And I think it happened in a way that, some people were paying more attention than others and said, wow, look at this. I represented money as chicken feed. And you have a bunch of chickens in a coop.
Wilson, do you think that it's because they used religion to control and now they're using other things to control?
I don't see it that way. I don't see it that way. I don't think of, when somebody says that to me, my mind ultimately goes to a group. And that group would had to have had children and kept them in tight quarters and taught them, in this family, we have our own cult and you're going to own people in the future, which, it's a possibility, but I think most of these things are highly improbable. I think that there is many different people, and some of them, they just ended up in the privileged portion of it. And I don't think that there's any really large nefarious scheme, because even the higher ups really believe that money is worth something. I mean, you tell Donald Trump that his money isn't worth something, and he'd probably laugh at you. But I mean, he's walking around with his monopoly cash and believing that his property is his. Now, when he dies, all of it will still be there. And they'll print more money. And 10 years from now, they'll print more money. My dad used to talk about how his wages were $1 something, but his rent was like $80 a month, and his groceries were like 10 cents for a can of milk and 5 cents for a loaf of bread. So if his wages were really low and the cost of living was really low, then it equaled out. And when you get to our day and time, people are making thousands of dollars, but cans of milk are anywhere from $2 to $3. Loaves of bread are $3, and rent usually runs you about $1,000 to $2,000 a month. So the truth is it has to equal out, because money doesn't have any real value. It has to stay at the same value as the goods and services, so that everything levels out and people get treated apparently fairly. Otherwise, you would have, even more privileged people, because, you can go and get any job and do whatever. But as for this idea that keeps coming up about these people behind the scenes, I don't believe that. I don't believe that there's people actually smart enough to think 100 years ahead and then pass it down to somebody. I don't think that they think like that. I think that they become a part of a group, and then boom. Am I still on? Or
Yeah, you are. Ceres has been given a whole, 100 years of moon rises. How do they know?
That is well, a lot of people like looking at the moon anyway. I mean, it's beautiful, right?
I guess realizing and knowing the actual frequencies of everything. I mean, how else could they fake it in something that we would think it is? In certain ways, they need certain truth to sell you the lies. So
Well, I believe that there are people in the world that have an agenda because we are like a lot of people I find do have an agenda-based system. But I mean, this goes right back to Julius Caesar and what I was talking about before in a different discussion, that this is a taught behavior. Julius or Caesar created the Colosseum. The Colosseum was to get people's minds off of starvation and horrible things happening around them. And he managed to get in a bit of taxes and pay his armies and keep things going by
give
entertaining
them bread
people.
and games.
And this is not a this is an old idea, and it's still utilized today.
It's
But
still,
that's not the big problem. The big issue is we believe, every human being on the planet believes that money makes you rich. They don't understand their own intrinsic value. They don't understand their equity in the place that they're living in. The other day I was in custody court, and the last thing that the judge said was, "God save the Queen."
Well,
I'm in Canada.
Das Kapital from who was it again? Money is it presents your own labor. It's nothing else. That is the actual value what's going into there. It doesn't matter.
Okay,
through
if
which,
I were to tell
which,
you,
Dell, do you want to say anything?
through which
Moment.
currency, it's
if
always,
I were to tell you
it
that
will
I
always
can create a
boil down to your
promissory
own
note,
labor.
and because I put a signature on the promissory note and the amount, that promissory note becomes a liquidatable asset, and now it's actually worth what is written.
Yeah.
So if I get presented a check by my boss and I sign the check, if the check is for $1,000, then that check is worth $1,000. By itself, the check is $1,000. The money that you get, the cash, that's fraudulent. Those are promissory notes. Those are promised to pay. You're supposed to get gold or silver. You're supposed to get something that's actually intrinsic for your goods and services. But look up these things from the 1700s when they started. Gold once was something that you had as a holding, and silver was the common currency for almost every place.
Yeah.
When did that change? That's the one will nip you in the bud. I think that if there's anybody out there, then they're probably connected to the bankers. And the bankers are probably the only bastards out there that are like, well, we don't care what goes on as long as we get ours. But even they have to use currency now.
Well, and so
The
far
same
they
kind of
say,
currency.
give me the right to mint, that I don't care what laws a country makes. Because the right
Does
to
anybody
mint
else want to add
is
anything,
the
by
actual
the
thing
way?
what is happening there. They
This
are the
discussion.
ones having the privilege to create this particular money, to counterfeit it. In that sense.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It all is counterfeit, because the original holdings for the money in the first place is completely gone. There's no gold reserves large enough to account for the bills that are telling you what it's worth, and the worth is only based on a sum given at a certain time, saying that we're going to use monies in the sense of a $5 bill, a $10 bill, a $20 bill, a $50 bill. Well, that doesn't really work for me.
Yeah.
Maybe my chunk of gold to me is worth $1 million, and I don't want to
It's
give it to you.
a funny thing, I came across this cryptocurrency, and what I figure from this particular difference is it is that the public itself actually has the right of mint instead of a banker or an Federal Reserve for the dollars in that sense.
Yeah.
The cryptocurrency is created by the people who actually mine it, and the wallets are the parts what is actually containing it, and the transactions are between the wallets. And so far you have nothing what actually interferes to there. There's no taxable thing in it, in that sense, and it is actually a public um, um, currency in that sense. And yeah, Bitcoin is there. For example, one Bitcoin is now $1,700 or something.
So though I do believe it still has to it still has to
Yeah,
go along with
the
the
difference is the public
criteria
has the
of
value in
how
their
to
hands in
create a
that sense,
bill.
and
So
that's the
whatever the
only.
picture of the piece of parchment or plastic, like it's still got a place, a date, a signature, and an amount. That's what you call
Marty,
a
Mike,
promise.
unmute
No,
yourself.
that's
Note.
that's the whole thing with the actual valutas, the physical
Hold
valutas
on.
in paper and such. But there's a difference with this crypto currency that it is actually a completely black market money. There's no control in there other than that everybody has his own wallet. You can just make your own wallet in that sense, and use that as a currency where you pay with,
Yeah.
and then you can compare it to an actual value, to what the valutas in the world are, and you can actually sell them for the actual valuta to exchange it, so you can actually buy something in this world. But it is a completely, yeah, black market side of the public itself, and nobody has a typical control of a value of it, other than that the mining itself only has a certain limitation in how much you can actually mine. And this is what you see with bitcoins at the moment, that they're nearing the end, and it just takes ages to get the next block value. No idea how that actually technically completely works in the low bit stuff, but eventually I will get that as well. But it is an actual movement of how we put our value in our own wallets instead of in the banks. And it is a complete distributed network of wallets in that sense.
Marty,
Yeah,
can you mute yourself unless you're speaking, my darling?
in a sense,
was trying to figure out how to
if you
do
lost
that.
your password, you actually lost your money in
Siri,
that sense,
Siri,
because
one
you don't
second,
get
because
it back.
Marty's there. Oh, he's muted himself now. We've got Marty with us as well. People keep jumping off and on at the moment, but I'd just like to say Marty's from America, Holland. Tom's from the UK, or England. Judith's from Israel. Wilson's from Canada, and Mikey and Rob, who've dropped off at the moment, they're from the UK. So we have a good collection of people from around the world on then series.
And yeah, coming back to that
On Dell. Sorry, I didn't mention Dell.
particular line, what somebody spoke, a banker spoke. Give me the right to mint, and I don't
Everyone
care
sounds like
what
Stephen Hawking's out.
laws of countries are. In that sense, we are actually the ones having the ability to mint because of this cryptocurrency. And we actually take it over by it. So that probably is the actual future of, as long as computers are there, as a particular virtual limited value, in that you can actually have enough to exchange in the world between each other for the services you create for in what country it would work. But it is a complete international currency in that sense. It's not bounded to borders. You can do it anywhere. The only thing you need is a computer. And we all form, in a sense, the whole banking system in that sense. And yeah, businesses are even tying into this. Ethereum is, for example, what a few bigger companies are getting into as well, and they that one is actually growing very hard. That's the next one, since Bitcoin is actually stranding on its edge of how far it can go. So in a way, we will create our own several currencies from what is made by the public itself. So we take over the banking system in that sense.
Okay, watch. Okay. Now, that's the same thing. And this is how I'm going to explain it's the same thing. I worked at a scrapyard for 9 years. The tonnage of steel that I cut is beyond. Now, the amount of work that I put in, the strain that I put on my body, if somebody came up to me and said, Wilson, would you like to put a dollar amount on what it is that you did? I can guarantee you that my boss would be spending the next 20 years just paying me. Okay? So anytime you put a set rate out there and then create a currency, it detracts from the value of the goods and services in the community. Because you can say, well, you know, you did this job, you spent this many hours, you get paid for this much time for this hours, right?
That's, yeah.
But I mean, what if one guy who's digging this shit out in the backyard is getting paid a hell of a lot less than the guy that's building the house? That value system is still being run in the same way. I don't care if it's the bankers or anything else. The older idea was free trade.
Is the fundament for the actual quote of "give me the right and I don't care what laws a country has." That particular one we take from the bankers, in the sense that the bankers are powerless because we will run our own currency. There's no banker taking that particular position anymore. The right to mint is, in that sense, taken back by the people.
Does anybody know how much these are worth?
What?
You see these things here?
Batman's. What is it?
It's a little spinny thing. They're like really, really popular right now. They're all over the place. A friend of mine's got a metal one. He paid $40 for it. This one was $7. Right? The one that he had was made out of aluminum. Aluminum retails in a scrapyard for about 50 cents a pound. He had maybe a few grams of it as a little spinny thing. It's got a little ball bearing into it and has a little piece for your hand to hold on to. Now, the reason why I bring this up is that right now it's very popular. So if you want to say, well, I want to sell this for $20, but that's based on popular demand. Nobody wanted them, and you had like a whole warehouse full of them. Then you got a whole warehouse full of junk.
Yeah.
Junk plastic that nobody wants. The idea is that when understanding intrinsic fields through business, what is it actually based on? So how is it you create a control or create something so that things can have a net value, and the net value can be controlled? The currency.
This is why we have this particular petrodollar. That oil is always sold in dollars, that the transactions are always in dollars. And this is the particular thing what we take over. We can just take bitcoins, the transactions.
But it didn't start with the petrodollars.
That removes the actual power of the dollar, for example. All the valutas can crash this way, because we actually, as a public, work with the actual other crypto valutas, because it's a wallet what you can just make for yourself. You could just open a wallet. You can mine it for example as well, but you can actually open a wallet and invest money in it. So you can actually use that particular valuta to buy anything anywhere on the internet. all the digital banking stuff, you know, but then directly to somebody else. And that's the whole power of it, that it is a public
I'm gonna
ability.
mute mine now. This is the problem that I keep running into when I bring it up. It seems like it goes onto this slippery ride, and
Just at the end, Wilson's gone slow.
and people, when I present the information, it
Wilson, we
like
can't
messes with
hear
people's
you.
hardwiring.
Wilson, we can't hear you.
Yeah, it will run a bit out because
Gold
it's so slow.
is intrinsic because it is intrinsic. It has several intrinsic fields. It's pretty. Thing out there I'm actually talking about. And it's hard for people to actually grasp onto that. And I know and I understand that. My brain, I guess, is wired different where I'm autistic and I never really cared about money. But now that I'm looking into the monetary system, I see this. And it seems to me it's very difficult for anyone to get past, because it's like we built this imaginary fence and we need that fence because that fence works.
No.
So anyway, I'm going to shut up.
Thank you for that, Wilson. What did you make of all that then?
Me?
Dell, I was asking Dell. Dell, what did you think of all that then, as your guest?
Sorry, I'm kind of losing track of what you're talking about, to be honest with you. It's just because it's breaking up and stuff. I'm not really sure what the point was.
Oh.
Sorry, just it breaks up. That's I was kind of losing my concentration. I don't know what you were actually discussing.
Okay then. Well, out again if you missed that bit. So maybe we should just ask you a few questions now. Like, how's it all going for you? Like, you were trying to move things on a little bit. So
Just the usual.
I saw you posting the other day.
Sorry, Karen, you broke up. I didn't hear that. Anything you said there.
I think you posting.
Just simply, do you have anything to share? What did you do? You know.
Just the usual, just the live stuff, some street stuff. I'll be back out this week again, so just trying to keep active and keep progressing wherever I can.
Have you had any surprises lately then with interviewing, or it's just the slow push through people to get the message across?
Yeah, it's just an ongoing process. Everything's different. Everybody's different.
How does Dell make his money? There's a good question.
It's a wee bit personal.
Oh, it's personal?
Well, either this subject for me is about the objective truth. It's I don't monetize my channel. I don't make any money out of this. This for me is about truth, and that's it. So I fix cars, I do up bikes. I do whatever I can, guitar lessons, whatever. So
You teach theory?
no, only practical.
My spinny thing flew away. Hold on.
Marty, do you have anything to say as you're there?
Things are going good on this end. I know some of you might have seen in the message groups that I've got my wife finally looking into chemtrails and GMOs, poisons in our food and sky and crap. And I'm hoping maybe to get her to start looking at the flat Earth. We were talking about it last night. And she's like, well, it really doesn't matter to me if we're living on a ball or on a plane. It doesn't affect me either way. And I'm like, well, it's just a matter of whether or not you like being lied to.
And what did she say to that then?
Well, like I said, she's interested now in at least the chemtrails and the, you know, putting poisonous crap in our food supply. So I'm hoping that maybe, you know, once she starts understanding that a little bit, she'll kind of tie in the flat Earth thing. And I found out that her best friend is also into quote unquote conspiracy theories. And so I'm going to try and talk to her too and see if I can't get her turned on to the flat Earth thing. And I've been posting publicly.
Yay!
I've been posting publicly because like I'll put something up of flat Earth or like a meme or something, and I'll get a lot of non-flat Earth friends liking it. And so yeah, I'm trying to get them to maybe contact me privately if they're a little too afraid to ask right out there in the open on my post. Hold on one sec, I gotta yell at my kid.
Okay, thank you for that. Dell, I've forgotten. Is your family well with you in this? Because you've got a partner. Is she into flat Earth, or does she not believe? Because we all struggle, don't we? It's not like 50 members of our family and 40 of them believe it's flat Earth. You might be lucky if 1 or 2 of them are with you. So what's it like for you in your life?
I would have to say about the word believe is this is not about belief, this is about what we know and what we don't know. But I mean, my partner, she's supportive of me regardless. She has her own thoughts, but of course she knows the globe is absolute nonsense, cartoon fakery. And she's in the same position as me, you know. We don't know what the full dimensions are, what the full objective truth of this reality is. It's always an ongoing investigation, so she's totally on board. You know, the main thing for me is that the people around about me are thinking critically. I don't want to convince anybody of anything. You know, they have to realise things on their own, or it's absolutely pointless. So as long as they're doing that, you know, I'm happy. But you know, the same with the kids. You got to teach them critical thought, how to think, how to process information, and how to be, you know, dependent upon only themselves. You know.
I understand that yours is quite a sort of, you've got a friend that comes with you, haven't you, or a few people around you that help you do this, but you're quite a sort of, but we're trying to sort of build a community in it. I know sometimes you think, oh, well, that's irrelevant and that's irrelevant, but the good thing is that we're all talking now. More and more people are talking. 2 months ago, now we know you and you're our friend. So this is good. I know that in a sense it's a bit of repetition and you do enough asking the same things when you go out on the streets anyway, but it's so good that we're all communicating. Look, we've got Israel, Canada, UK, Holland, whoever's listening, watching.
Yeah. That's why I done the Saturday night thing, so that we could get as many people as we could, letting us know who they are and their story from whatever part of the world they are in. You know, and it's really spreading everywhere. You're right. It's great, but people just need to keep at it and keep at the activism. People in communities and having chats is great. You know, I'm all for people communicating with each other. But for me, I'm always just looking to progress and where I can take it to the next place. You know, because it's a long way from war as far as I'm concerned. But
said that the path was going to be a short one.
Yeah.
I just think that for a lot of people, when they wake up, you think, this is it.
Well,
it's going to go. It's going to happen.
I think in the last 6 months, it's moved really, really quickly. If you look at it for the last 2.5 years, the last 6 months, it's accelerated, you know, a lot more than it did the 2 years previous to that. And that's just a testimony to the activism through people actually getting up and speaking. So it's good. Hopefully everybody keeps up. And, you know, I say that it's not over. I don't mean that this is going to be going on for a long, long time. I don't intend that. And there's a lot of people around me who have got the same intention. We don't want this going on for 5, 10 years. We want this happening in the next 6 months. So,
That would be brilliant.
yeah,
A lot of fallout.
yeah.
You were say it was Man United and they were just about to win the World Cup, but they didn't. Oh,
So
it's not going to be easy, is it?
if I can offer anything to anybody, if I can contribute to anybody, then you can everybody can look me up, message me on the YouTube channel or nocurve@gmx.com.
It's been going on since 1492, and the actual conception of the globe introduced into the schools. There's been men all over the world writing books, scientists disagreeing since 1492. We're talking about losing steam over the internet. People have been talking about this since before our great-grandparents were around. Okay? And other people have been trying to disprove them and make them look like retards. And there are professors that don't believe that the Earth is a spinny ball. Guys, a little bit more research, because you know something. Since 2013, when I started to see people talk about this on online, I've been doing research into other areas. And so when we speak about the monetary system, when we speak about politics, we speak about how people view things. That's all, in effect, a part of it. It's not just what shape is the planet we live on. Who put the megaliths where they were? Why is the Dark Ages the only time in our history where people are stupid, yet they built pyramids before that?
Guys, can I just
questions and answers?
Guys, I'm just going to cut in because I'm going to have to go. I've just had a visit of an idea. As I was saying, if I can contribute to anybody in any way or help anybody with any projects, or if you want any promotion with any art or activism, just let us know, and I'll be sure to shout it out on one of the live events. But I've got a guest in, so thanks for having me on, people. Appreciate it.
That's a little bit different because you host shows, don't you? So you're the person doing the more talking. What is it, just before you go, what's it like coming on here and something else? Just asking.
Oh, no, it's good just not have that pressure of having to carry anything forward, Aye. But, I appreciate it.
Our hangouts then.
Sorry?
Just coming on our hangouts.
Sorry, you totally broke up there, Karen.
You like being on our hangouts?
It's nice to meet new people and see what everybody's getting up to, It's good. It's just, my path's different for everybody else's, so I'm just always thinking about active stuff, and if I can help or promote anybody in any way, then fair enough, But listen, guys, I'm going to have to scoot off. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for being part of our evening. Thank you very much, Dell.
Cheers, guys. Take it easy.
Nice to have you tonight. Oh,
take care.
Person drops out. See you next
time. Thank you, Dell. Oh, we've lost a few more now.
Yeah,
guys, I have to go too. Well. My phone's almost dead, and my kids are being a pain in the butt.
Okay.
Joining us, Marty.
Yeah, I can hang out longer next time, so hopefully.
Yeah, thank you, Marty.
Take your sister out of it. With less hurt. Hurt less.
Thank you, Marty. And then there was 3 of us. Series, do you think that we should end the live feed in a minute then?
Yeah, in a sense, we have done the main guest. So, yeah.
Okay, you can stay on for a little bit, but do you want to end the live feed? Thank you, everybody, for watching. I know it's suddenly drastically ended, but this is our first live feed, and it was all new to us and everything. And I know I didn't chat very much on the chat group. I sent a few messages, But I hope everybody's enjoyed it, and we will do this again, and we'll probably be a bit more the word now.
Yeah, my hope is only.
Help me series.
Yeah, my hope is that the streaming itself. I figure I need a better internet, better upstream to actually have a better quality online as a direct stream, even followable.
Link about 15 minutes before and had to do it again. So it's been a bit of a crazy evening.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. There's only 3 of us left, but it wasn't quick enough before.
You went.
But
See you all next
for
time.
our group, for our guests, and for the world. Hey. Thank you, series, and the live feed, and thank you for everybody watching.